Hello. So this is kind of an idea, it gives you an idea of what the a mass incinerator would look like. Oops. A mass incinerator would look like. One of the byproducts of the mass incinerator is also methane gas. So if you were to take different steps where we could collect methane gas, just by allowing methanogenesis to happen in a sanitary dump, we could collect a lot of methane gas. Having a mass incinerator, better than a mass incinerator would be a refuge incinerator where you kind of sort out things that are recyclable and not burnable, and then burn those things. You could collect more natural gas. If we were actually able to collect all these natural gas, we could cut down fracking by a large percentage. Again, we would, going back to the same thing, we would have to find a different way of distribution. At present, the way natural gas is distributed for certain houses where they use gas for heating and all of that, which natural gas is used, there are pipelines for it. We could use the same pipelines. However, there is a proprietary difference in the mixture of the natural gas that you get for burning in your house, for natural gas tanks that you get for cars and CNG, liquid natural gas containers for cars and stuff like that. They have a different like there is a difference in the ratio of all the various other hydrocarbons and methane. Methane primarily being the gas that's used. There's also other hydrocarbons in it, which it's not going to be that much of a deal to replicate that model. So this is actually using our trash to produce natural gas might be an answer not only to dealing with the amount of trash, but also an answer to dealing with the fracking issue. We will talk about the fracking issue in another chapter. Um, Again, like I was talking about previously, there is a huge initial cost. This is not just for an incinerator, but it's also for other the fees. For regular dumps also, it costs about 100 to $300 million typically to construct the area to keep it. There's also huge tipping costs. The word tipping fees just means how much it costs to dump per city. And then there's also all the EPA regulations that happen in this case, whether you want to build a landfill in your neighborhood or you want to build uh, an incinerator in your neighborhood. There is a lot of EPA regulations. While certain factions of our government is very much anti-regulation, these are regulations that are very, very important for the neighborhood, for the people in the neighborhood to be able to do a very common thing all of us do: breathe. Um, there is no way to remove lead out of your lungs if you had an unregulated incinerator in your neighborhood. Or if you had an unregulated incinerator that threw out dioxins, nobody wants to bubble to death. I mean, you would literally have these boils in your body that you would bubble to death. Um, one of the ways to control this is, like we talked about in the previous slides, is to have an incinerator where you separate heavy metals and plastics and all other unburnable, also recyclable materials. Most of your batteries can be recycled before you burn them. Incineration, the biggest benefit of incineration is reduction of the volume itself. Certain, like I said, certain states use the methane gas that comes from it in order to make natural gas. A lot of states don't, but most states use it to actually reduce the trash in volume. Now we get into the the best way to shrink our waste stream is recycling. Um, Aluminum actually has been a real success story, and we'll talk about it in the next few slides. Old, oh, the old tires, that has also been another major success story in terms of recycling. Tires that are made out of galvanized rubber are actually, till a couple of decades ago, there was actually no way of disposing it. Tires are not something you want to burn. Really bad idea. They burn for a really long time, and there's not a complete burn to it. So one of the things they used to do was actually just store it, which caused a huge rodent problem. Nobody likes that. They also tried to do something else with tires, is that they tried to make artificial coral reefs with tires, dump them in the middle of the ocean and let them become a part of a coral reef. Some of them actually have been incorporated into coral reefs as of now, but still it's not a viable option to make to do with all the tires. The United States, apparently, according to the EPA, produces waste about, or disposes off of 300 million tires every year. Um, I I don't know. As after I moved to Connecticut, I've had to change so many tires in my car. Sometimes it's snow tires, and then summer tires and winter tires. Ugh. Crazy. So one of the things they came up with was actually to crumb it down. They would pulverize it, crumb it down, and mix it with asphalt. And most of your roads now have old tires in it. So the asphalt on your roads are now, that's why the roads are called rubberized. That just means that they have used old tires to create the and mix it up with asphalt. Better driving conditions, actually. So that has actually been a real good success story. As far as newspaper, it's still used for insulation in homes and stuff like that. Copper. Now, this is very interesting. Copper is one of those materials that's actually traded um, in the stock exchange. They have their own futures. It is a very it's a very important metal that we need for, for civilized society to sustain itself. It's the cost of copper has constantly been increasing. So any investors in futures out there, copper is something you want to invest in. Um, I do own some stocks in that. So um, it's actually pretty bad when you have, especially in slightly upper scale, when they build housing complexes and stuff like that. A lot of copper is used for piping, in wiring and stuff like that, and people tend to steal it and sell it for scrap metal and the black market, which is really not a good thing because it does cause a lot of problems. Benefits. Now, I don't think I have to tell you this, what the benefits of recycling are. Obviously, the amount of waste stream we generate, that reduces. There's a lot of pollution that's reduced. It encourages individual responsibility, makes us all better people for it. Um, Nations, interestingly, Japan, that recycles about half of all of its waste, is also Japan, for being a smaller nation than ours, and probably, I'm sure, has a lot smaller population than ours, recycles at twice the rate at which we do. Mostly in our case, we're largely lazy. Um, Oops. Some of the success stories that I was talking about previously was bauxite. Bauxite ore is the one that is, the bauxite is the ore for aluminum. It's about 96% cheaper to actually recycle the aluminum cans that we have. And we in the United States have been, we actually do not mine for bauxite anymore. We do not import bauxite anymore because the recycling process has actually been a success with that. The fact that there is an incentive to recycle these cans. Maybe you don't recycle it. I know for a fact I don't. But it is a cottage industry of picking it out of trash and other places and recycling it for cash. Um, a lot of people do that. There's money in it as long as you incentivize. One of the things from the success of bauxite we know is that if you incentivize recycling, chances are people are going to recycle a lot more. Or you can do what some of the states on the west coast of United States have done. California has it, Oregon has it, Washington has it, where you basically get a scarlet letter on your trash can if you do not recycle. Um, it's just kind of shameful. So they have chosen to take the other path, which is they will not incentivize anything. They will just shame you into recycling. I mean, it is a horrible scarlet letter. Your whole neighborhood knows that you are that guy. Um, plastic also, we've been pretty successful in recycling plastic. It's almost 78%, as I've written down there, it's about 78% cheaper to recycle plastic. Now, the life of plastic is actually pretty interesting. It goes through phases. Once it's produced, it goes from being hard plastic. The first run of plastic is usually the newest plastic is your milk cartons, and then it goes into water bottles. Um, Lastly, towards the end of its life, I mean, in the middle, after milk bottles, milk cans, and water bottles, it actually becomes hard plastic. Children's toys and buckets and bins and stuff like that. Those are recycled, and then they go through another phase where some of them become pallets, and those pallets are used for packing and for filling and stuff like that. After the pallets, they become your white trash bags, the ones that you get at a grocery store. And towards the end of its life cycle, that plastic usually becomes black plastic bags. So do not put your groceries in a black plastic bag because they actually give out VOCs, which is volatile organic compounds. It is towards the end of its life stage. That black plastic bag at that point of time is disposed. There's no more you can't recycle it anymore. It's towards the end of its recycling cycle. However, it still is a success story when it comes to both bauxite as well as bauxite, meaning aluminum, and plastic. We have done a pretty good job of recycling it. Most of us are pretty good at recycling soda cans. I don't think me and Greg are very good at it. Oh, and I'm sure there's someone in the building that recycles our trash. Um, um, Water bottles, most of us, I think at home, most of us have some kind of recycling bin that we throw stuff into. So this is a breakdown of all the things that are recycled. Auto batteries. One of the reasons auto batteries have reached the almost 100% limit. This is figures from 2003. They are not as accurate as 2015-16 figures are. Auto batteries are very successful because wherever you buy the auto battery, they have a buyback policy. So you can take your auto battery back to the store. If you bought it at Pep Boys or AutoZone or whatever other place, you can actually take your auto battery back to them and they give you $20 or something back. But unfortunately, I don't know who has a car for that long, so it goes with your car. Steel cans. Steel is pretty lucrative. If you were to throw steel cans in your trash can, your friendly neighborhood homeless person will come and get it. Um, I mean, you are doing them a service by throwing them out, I guess. This is kind of the breakdown again. Remember, these figures are from 2003. That is more than a decade